5. So you're logging in, you know the deal, say where you're logging in from, hit the like button, and feel free to continue doing so throughout the dialogue. If you are catching the simulcast over on the YouTube, please be sure to like, rate, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. If you enjoy my work and you'd like to support the program, please visit jkdrebel.com, which is where you'll see cool stuff like this, the 4 Tenets of Jeet Kune t-shirt, available also as a hoodie, a long sleeve coffee mug, and all that good stuff. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the I Love Jeet Kune. I don't believe I said that, about the Jeet Kune dialogues. That's the problem when you have more than one podcast, you know? You keep you keep messing stuff up, right? Okay, and now this thing doesn't want to leave the screen. Okay, all right, so everybody help me welcome Darin Waugh. Now, is that the correct pronunciation of your last name?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. Because you are somebody, Darin, whose name I am very familiar with, but to be honest, I don't think we've ever met in person.
No.
No? Right? Okay, all right. But I noticed that, right, see, so here's I gotta share a bunch of things with you. One, in recent weeks, I've been on this thing where I haven't been doing any research on my dialogue partner. I'm trying to be Joe Rogan. You know how Joe Rogan looks like he's just having a conversation with somebody who's sitting across from him? I'm trying to be Joe Rogan, right?
He's all comfortable and smooth.
But here I have to tell you this. When I looked you up, I didn't know anything about the books that you've written or anything like that. So I was like, aha. I go, okay, so this is an intellectual, so I got to be on my best game when I
Awesome.
when I talk to this guy. And then I kind of figured you wouldn't have any problems connecting, with the software and all that, because your books date back to an early era of Amazon, don't they?
Yeah.
Or some of them do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Analyze Your Fighting came out like in 1999. So
well, that's when the internet started.
What's that?
That's when the internet started.
Yeah. So when I first started selling that book, I was actually making copies from a copy machine and putting it in a binder and selling it that way.
Right.
So,
wow. Excellent.
Yeah. And then eventually I got it, bound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's this book here. So, yeah.
How did you get into that, the writing stuff?
Well, luckily when I was in college, I got my degree in health education. They were still teaching critical thinking and and
that's interesting.
Very good. So, and I even had a class on how to do research and the whole thing. So that was kind of my thing, and it still is in a way. I wanted to get martial artists to think, in more broader terms, martial artists like to throw around the term scientific. Well, what are you doing that's scientific? That includes research, testing, evaluating your results, etc. So, so in Analyze Your Fighting, it's a whole program on how to videotape either your competitions or your sparring, and to totally break it all down. From every punch you throw to every movement and everything, to recognize your patterns, and to really understand what you're doing, and
so that's something that a coach could use for his fighters, but that's also something that an instructor can use for his or her teaching, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly was one of my selling points was.
What gave you that idea?
Again, I think oh man, I don't know how I originally got the ideas. And it's the same thing with when I did the Real Fighting, Real Facts books. I actually looked at real fights and broke them down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, I think it was just coming out of college with this idea of and seeing that a lot of things in martial arts are assumptions.
Right. Right.
How many real street fights go on the ground? Oh, it's 90%. Well, where did that come from?
Right.
Let's see if it's true or not.
Yeah, it might have been a marketing ploy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets to be real interesting because, of course, this was pre-MMA.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, I had friends that would give me like their black belt tests for their students, when they had to spar like every other student in the class, and
right.
I would break those down in other competitions and film my students and film myself.
Yeah.
And, back, and I bring up, pre-MMA because if you really think about all the techniques, let's say 20 that you throw on a bag or on mitts, how many of those can you actually, land in a consistent manner?
Mm-hmm.
was kind of what I was looking at also.
Mm-hmm.
And, it comes down to like 4 to 6 techniques that in sparring that people are landing more on a consistent basis. And I'm like, man, people spend 30, 40 years just to be able to land, 6 techniques. But of course, MMA has changed that.
Yeah.
Those guys are landing, twice that. And I'm just talking about standing, stand up, punches and kicks. Obviously, they're doing ground stuff too. So, that's the kind of thing, that I got into doing. I was hoping to, get martial artists to think, to ask some more questions, especially when, things come up.
Yeah. So, so you must really then enjoy Facebook discussions about martial arts because so many people are asking questions. People are not telling. Of course, I'm being facetious because nobody asks questions on bloody Facebook. Everybody has an opinion. Right? And they're very willing to tell you how you're wrong and they're right.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Because I remember when you mentioned the pre-MMA stuff, I am pretty sure in the early days of talking with like Larry Hartzell had a percentage for ground fighting that was in the 60s or something. Right? But then along comes Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and next thing you know, it's 90%. And I'm thinking, well, where I actually used to challenge people on that and ask them, where are the university studies? You're telling me it's 90%, 99%. I'm asking you to cite the authoritative study that was done because I'm not aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the last time I saw a street fight. There was somebody in a lab coat, with a pocket protector and a clipboard going, okay. So, so I don't get it. That's why I think it's just a market employee. But anyway, so let's dial backwards and talk about your start in martial art, like your background and how you came to Jeet Kune and all that stuff.
All right. So we got to go back to 1974. And I actually got started. The neighborhood that I lived in was right behind a shopping center. So I was always at this shopping center. I had a bowling alley, miniature golf, donut shop, J.C. Penney's with the lunch counter, even still, library. So I was up there all the time. Yeah. And I got jumped a couple times in that shopping center area. Mm-hmm. One time by a neighborhood bully, another time by 4 or 5 other older kids. And so I'm like 13 and I'm thinking, I don't like this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to study martial arts or something.
Right.
So, and I give my 13-year-old self some, credit for taking responsibility like that, because I could have ran home to my dad crying or my mom, and called the police or whatever. But I said, no, I don't like this. So I went home. My dad read a lot. He had a ton of books. Dad, you got any books on martial arts? So he had a couple. So I started there. And then, bookstores, getting books and magazines or whatever. And then, so Dad saw my interest and he decided to take me to a drive-in movie. So you know where this is going. So saw the first movie was Chinese Hercules. Cool.
Yeah.
And then of course Way of the Dragon. And that was it.
Right.
Which is, the same story for a lot of us, that started in martial arts. You find Bruce Lee and, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, so then I found, got in the yellow pages, no internet back then, looking for a martial arts school, found one that I could ride my bike to. And again, I did this all myself as a 13-year-old. I went to the school, I signed up. Parents never took me back and forth. I rode my bike, I paid for it.
Yep.
And it was a Shorin-ryu school.
Okay.
But of course, I was reading about Jeet Kune and stuff. That's when all this material was starting to come out. So I had Jeet Kune in my heart really from the start too.
Right.
I just really took to it. But this school, it was a really cool school. We were doing Shorin-ryu, but they were already into kickboxing. And Jeff Gripper was there. Do you know Jeff Gripper?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, he ended up being a PKA champion.
Okay.
In what year was this? Well, not in 282, I think it was. He was a welterweight PKA champion. So that was really cool. And some other fantastic guys there. And I actually got to spend a summer, a good part of the summer working one-on-one with Jeff. So that was fantastic because I really got to see what it takes to be a champion, at an early age, the effort and the
right.
things you need to put into it. And
right. Okay.
He was a good high kicker. And so again, I'm 13, 14 years old. He caught me with a hook kick one time and a bunch of snot came out of my nose. Of course, it was embarrassing. And he's like, I don't, he says, don't take this the wrong way, but I just kicked the snot out of you. So. But so that went on for a year, probably about 2 years, and then that school closed, and then a Shotokan school came in. So I did Shotokan for another year or two, and then we moved to Illinois. This is in Columbus, Ohio. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. It's in Columbus, Ohio. We moved to a small town in Illinois, and I got some pretty good stories of when I was trying to find a school in Illinois, and ended up couldn't find a place I went into one school and a guy hit me in the face. That I was 16 years old.
Oh, man.
He was trying to demonstrate.
Yeah.
And of course, I told him, I said, I don't expect to come into school and get hit in the face, and I'm 16. So, and I think that scared him because he asked how old I was. And I'm like, I'm 16. It's like, oh, okay. It's one thing if you're a student, but if you're not a student there, you're punching people in the face. But anyway, so then, throughout high school, I actually ended up just teaching some friends in my basement and stuff because we were out in a small town. But when I moved back to Ohio after high school, started going to Ohio State. And again, I had Jeet Kune in my heart the whole time, so I was just practicing.
Yeah, I wanted you to touch on that. What were you doing to satisfy that longing in your heart for Jeet Kune? What were you doing Jeet Kune wise?
Really studying the books and magazines. Videos were out yet then. And just adapting the best I could, especially, since I had the kickboxing experience.
Right.
Yeah. But I could not wait. I was looking at all the Wing Chun type of techniques and moves. And I was just, man, because you can't quite, looking at it, you can't quite get it. So, that's the kind of things I wanted. But I moved back to Ohio and went to Ohio State University and found a club there that was called Dojang Issue, which just means art of fighting.
Yeah.
And it wasn't they didn't really have like a set system. It was very Gcondo oriented. Because the guy started, it was a big Bruce Lee fan, that type of thing. And he was also a kickboxer and a boxer. But the nice thing about that was Ohio State being a huge university, there was 26 different martial arts clubs there.
Wow.
And yeah, so,
wow.
And we would have people coming in and out all the time. We had a lot of college wrestlers. We had just about all kinds of stuff. And then we even had a guy started working at the university named Jeff Pashada, who was a Wing Chun instructor.
Okay.
And he ran the Gate Lab. So he started teaching and stuff in the club also. He was a kinesiologist, in other words, which was really cool. And we got to be good friends. So I started training. We started training together more privately. And that's where I picked up the Wing Chun elements.
Right.
I was showing him what, I had been doing. He was showing me Wing Chun. And what was kind of cool about that, we would meet on his lunch breaks sometimes, and we would go into, it was called Larkin's Hall then, which is a huge sports complex. Had like 5 swimming pools in there and everything. It was huge. And we'd go up. Yeah, it was a huge, Ohio State's like the 3rd largest university in the United States. Mm-hmm. And we would go up to like the 3rd or 4th floor, and we'd actually climb out the window, and there was like an overhang, a big balcony overhang, and we'd practice out there.
Oh, so that was like traditional rooftop Wing Chun stuff.
Yeah. Only problem was when the sun was out and the weather was nice, girls would go out there too, and they would sunbathe. So we'd be doing our Chisar or whatever, and one of us would look over and we'd smack the guy in the face. So, pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
So
that's hilarious.
That was good training because, and again, he's kind of got me into the scientific side of martial arts too, because like I said, he ran the Gate Lab. So he took me in there and they studied, human motion,
right?
Human movement,
right?
He was doing studies for muscular dystrophy type of patients, and the whole floor was like a pressure plate.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would put these markers on the joints and have all these cameras all around, and it would all go into the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was starting to do studies on martial arts like that too. But he was a Wing Chun. He was a William Chung instructor.
Okay. And
do you remember way back when William Chung was talking about he did so many punches a second? Do you remember that?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
No.
It was something like, there was a time period there where he was, kind of saying, I can do, I think it was like 12 punches a second or something like that.
Okay.
Well, he's the guy that did that.
I see.
Did that study and stuff.
Okay.
So that's where I picked up the Wing Chun type of things. And then, just kind of speed this up a little bit. Then after that was years of seminars, the Bruce Lee Eve thing, which is where I met Richard.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, because I was not aware of this. You see, because I have screenshots of what I thought was all the books, but then earlier today I was just trying to finalize stuff, and I saw this one. Right. So tell people about this.
Yeah, Bruce Lee Eve was an event started by Robert Blakeman, and who has passed away. He died at 2001 at 45 years old. He was a big Bruce Lee fan, so all that memorabilia you see was his. He was a big memorabilia collection, and he felt so in '85. he used to hold this event at his house. He'd call it Bruce Lee, and he'd just invite friends and stuff over.
Right.
But in '85, he expanded it to a movie theater where he brought in his collection and showed Enter the Dragon and had martial arts demonstrations.
Nice.
You know, and the whole bit. So I ended up helping him with all that kind of stuff, got really involved in that. And it got, you know, attention in black belt and inside Kung Fu. And, you know, he was afraid people weren't, you know, going to remember Bruce Lee. He wanted to try to keep the memory of Bruce Lee alive. And again, this is pre-internet, so, you know, no problem now.
Yeah.
But, and then the next year in '86, is when Larry Hartzell came out and George Dillman. They actually came to the event, so that was really cool. And Richard Torres came to the events, and so I had Larry over my house and Richard over my house, and that was really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this book I wasn't aware of, and I also was not aware that you had done. Let me see if I can pull this one up here. It's where'd it go? Let me see if I can get it back. This one.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about this one.
That's my first novel.
Ah.
Yeah. And
you know, I read the synopsis of it and I'm like, this should be a movie.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I'm fixing some things in it now because, you know, first novel, it's like, you know, you know, you read it and you're like, oh man, I need to fix that. But at any rate, yeah, thank you. I thank you.
Hey, look, if Scarlett Johansson can do what was it, Black Widow, she could star in this one.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Yeah, that would be perfect.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I kind of been in the background for a long time. I haven't gotten. I think a lot of people don't even know about Bruce Lee Eve as being a big tribute event, because I kind of hang out in the background, do my thing, do my writing, my research, keep my little small group going, and you know, I need to get out there more, I guess.
Well, you know, look, there is that contention. You know, I've had people say to me that, you know, that to a certain extent, Jeet Kune is small group backyard thing. You and a couple of friends. That sometimes the attempt to take it beyond that can backfire in a serious way. And I do not disagree with that 100%. I really don't. If the disagreement I have is that if people are able to make a good living teaching Taekwondo, people should also be able to make a good living teaching Jeet Kune. Because Jeet Kune, I mean, so I'll be magnanimous and I'll say Jeet Kune has as much to offer as it does Taekwondo, right? You know, right? Yeah. So that's the only issue as such that I would have with that contention. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about the writing, though, because it fascinates me. People who are able to think about stuff and then put it down on paper and in such a way that when somebody else reads what happened in their mind, it makes sense to them too. Like, I really envy that, right? So you mentioned, so the Art of Fighting, this grew out of the club at OSU, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. So can you tell us more about the history and the practice of Doshangshu?
Yeah. Again, it was started by a guy named Fred Karamian, who was he was quite the character. He was one of these guys that was, you know, super fit. He could do the thumb push-ups.
So he was Bruce Lee inspired, even if he hadn't gone down the path of training with so-and-so notable or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And he was sought after by boxers and and things, and just, totally explosive. I mean, honestly, it took me a long time to keep up with this guy. And so yeah, we were doing, and again, he was a big Bruce Lee fan, so he had the whole Jeet Kune thing, in his heart too.
Yeah.
And we worked through those principles and things, and the best we could. We had the class at OSU. We had the basement class, which was more crazy. But then again, the guys that could come in from different arts, they would influence the curriculum too. Especially when like Jeff came in, the Wing Chun guy. We had Swai Jiao, which, was interesting, and he could actually apply it. I remember doing drills with this guy, and all of a sudden I'd be on my back, and, so, and Bondo was big. And he was friends with a lot of all these other martial arts instructors too. So they would come in sometimes, or we would work with them on the side or go to their school. There was a lot of activity going on, and Bondo was very big in Ohio. That's where the main branch was. So we got involved in their tournaments, and I made friends with one of those guys too, and trained with him some. There was even a ninjutsu club there. And ninjutsu was big in Ohio also.
Right.
And so I sparred with that guy a couple of times. And
was Stephen Hayes based out of Ohio at one point? He was, right? Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, the curriculum changed and our training changed, but as time went along, Fred left the group after 5 or 6 years and handed it over to us, and we kept it going for about 25 years. But through the 80s, we were like the biggest club there at Ohio State. And I don't know exactly why we brought in, we'd start a new class every quarter. And, we'd get 20 new people coming in. And so we started doing like, well, let's see who's going to last or who not, because the class was getting too big. We would do we'd do a workout, and then we would do duck walks, around the floor. Because, if you survive, duck walks, then okay, you're probably serious. But, we've had people walk, we had people walk out in the middle. And, that's how we would weed people out. So, So it was cool. And then this book is really, as you showed it, it's really inspired by the Tao. That's kind of how I wrote it. It's a lot of sections and sayings, and I was good at recording, what Fred said, or we had a really good instructor named Ricardo Wilson, who was very good at analogies, so I would remember those. And that's how that kind of came.
Hey, let me put something on your mind. If you were to write a Jeet Kune book, how would you approach it?
I have a couple already started.
Yeah, I kind of thought that.
And I'll tell you the title of one of them and hope nobody steals it, but Gcondo Laboratory.
Yeah.
Because again, that's how my thinking is. That's how I think. That's how I really think Bruce meant Gcondo to be, as sort of a laboratory.
Yes.
You learn, you refine, Well,
you make it really scientific.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I think he would have loved all the new modern technology and really.
Okay. So then weigh in on, because there is an argument out there that Jeet Kune is specifically what Bruce Lee did, right? And then there are people who say, okay, well, you mean what Bruce Lee did up until he passed away. But if you look at how he was constantly evolving. So are you saying that since Bruce Lee is no longer around, Jeet Kune Do is not meant to evolve. You see? So there's that argument. But now here's what happens. Some people say, oh, so you're saying that evolution of Jeet Kune Do means adding more stuff to it, right? So then that becomes part of the argument, you know. And it's all. I find it all fascinating because I think that ultimately it's your own personal decision. You know, you do what you want to do to the best of your ability, which I think is all Bruce Lee was doing. But can you weigh in on all that the back and forth stuff?
I think there are preservers, as I call them. Mm-hmm. You know, the people that took the time. I mean, I met Ted Wong and things, but these was all through seminars. You know, I didn't spend a whole lot of time with you know, Joe Louis. You know, I met you know, a lot of these through seminars. But I think there's the preservers. You know, the guys that studied directly with the Bruce Lee students, and I thank them for making that effort and for preserving and for showing and teaching and sharing all that. But you know, you remember, you know, Bruce Lee said Jeet Kune Do is not founded on technique or doctrine; it is just as you are. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, we don't. One of his sayings or whatever that, you know, you don't really hear about. And, you know, he says he wasn't trying to create another branch.
Right.
So I think there's this personal journey that is okay too, as a Jeet Kune Do person. I mean, I think there's a lot of people like me that have had, you know, a different path. And I think that's good. So I think there's the preservers, there's the kind of the individual spirited minded people that.
Right. So I did, you said, was it Ricardo Wilson you said, who was good with the analogies? Okay. I did an I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast of maybe a month ago or so, in where I talked about the keepers of the flame versus the fire starters. You see, the keepers of the flame. Now, most times that's like an honorable title to be the keeper of the flame. But I was thinking about right. I was thinking about it. If you are the keeper of the flame, it kind of limits you to only to that flame that Bruce Lee lit. Mm-hmm. But if you know how to start your own fire, you can go beyond that flame that Bruce Lee lit, that you're keeping lit, right? You can go beyond that, even though you might be using, you know, you might be using a portion of that fire to start your own fire.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Right? Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be your translator.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
So since we're talking about Jeet Kune Do as a laboratory and what have you, tell us about this one.
Yeah, that was, again, that I actually, I think this is cool. And it had software with it. The only problem is when the newer versions of Windows came out, the software didn't work anymore because I hired a guy to write the software, and you know, I didn't have money to get it updated. And so any programmers out there that want to help me get this thing updated. Hey, but you know, again, this is, you know, it's like in Kali, when you say, you know, you got 64 times 64 strikes or whatever, it's kind of the same thing. That's really what it is. So
you know why I have this big smile on my face? Because the second I saw this, when I was doing my research on you, I go, man, I wonder if he's going to mention Kali when he talks about this.
But there's literally, I mean, you look at it and you go, how can there be millions of combinations? Well, there are.
Yes.
Especially if you just don't go, you know, jab, cross, hook. You can go jab, jab, cross. You can go jab, jab, uppercut, jab, and then you add the heights, and you add the left and right arm. And then, well, especially if you add targets.
Yes.
If you say nose, throat, you know, jab to the throat. it gets ridiculous. It gets crazy. And again, I don't think a lot of martial artists realize this. They get stuck in their own
my
pattern.
students would love a class taught by you.
Oh, thank you.
Because this is identical, the kind of stuff that we talk about all the time.
Awesome.
All the time. Yeah. But see, I didn't study at OSU, so I don't know anything about, critical thinking and how to set up software. But yeah, I mean, maybe somebody who sees this knows about software, whatever, or maybe you take this to Fiverr or something, because I mean, I've heard of people, dealing with somebody in Europe, in Eastern Europe, writing software programs and what have you. So so I was very intrigued when I saw this one, and I wondered what what would be the process behind that, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see, what's the next one that I had here? Because like I said, I pulled all of them and wanted you to. You mentioned this one right at the beginning, but tell us a little bit more about this. This was the first one. Was this the very first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was like back in 1990.
Right. So what were you doing in terms of like your area of study, or the point of the point in your training that you were at that gave you the idea to analyze your fighting?
I think it was partly that a few of my students were getting into competition, especially my student Neil Rowe in Cincinnati. He became Rich Franklin's Thai boxing coach, which is really cool. So I'm really proud of him. And that's him in the cover doing the flying knee there. So how could I help them? How can you really understand what you're doing? So like, for example, one of my friends, I told you that he gave me his black belt test. So the guy doing the black belt test, oh crap, I forgot his name. But anyway, huge arms, intimidating guy. Matter of fact, he cut the sleeves off his gi, so everybody can see guns, And so he fought everybody and sparred everybody in the class. I went through and analyzed the tapes, and he would throw kicks, but not really to hit anybody. He would just throw them to kind of keep people off of him so he could use his punches.
Right.
And so when I was talking to him about this, I said, you really don't, you don't really kick anybody. What are you talking about? You're not kicking anybody with any damage.
Right.
So, and again, I want martial artists, my to take an objective view. I mean, if you're analyzing an MMA fight, let's say, and you're a Thai boxer, you're going to analyze it through your knowledge, through what you know. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to get people to be objective, to get away from that. Not get away from it, but to realize that maybe you're not seeing all what's happening or all what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
So, and that actually has, and again, I'm way behind on doing videos or anything, but I've got a tactics catalog in there that's about 100 different tactics. And I talk about the difference. I think some martial artists don't even know the difference between strategy and tactics, and I even define, what is a technique. It has to have a specific motion, it has to have a specific target, right. Just basic things that, some guys never even ask.
Yeah.
So,
okay. The title of this one is quite intriguing. What, as the cool kids say, what is up with this?
That is a book of short stories, some fiction, some not fiction, and poetry. and I relate the muse or the inspiration for writing kind of in a martial arts manner.
Okay.
Meaning, you know, if you've got this creative energy or whatever, you got to get control of it, focus it, figure out how you want to use it, which is kind of the smacking thing. Sometimes you just gotta, you know, that's kind of my analogy. But so it has kind of several different themes in it.
Right. The title. I saw the title and I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool, right? Okay, so let me see. I think that's we've covered all of them. Yeah. All right. I there's one graphic that I realized I didn't pull up, but you'll tell us about it. Sticky boxing. What is sticky boxing?
That so I think you've alluded to, and a lot of people have it. Kind of one of the problems that might be with Jeet Kune Do is the marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so, and to jump away from that to the sticky boxing. Sticky boxing is where like my personal art, um, and uh, so I've developed, you know, that area where it's very Wing Chun combining with boxing.
Yeah.
You know, especially the hook punch. I go for the knockout right away. I emphasize recovery. I do what I call dynamic recovery. And for the longest time, my students will tell you I do emphasize structure and things for the longest time. And then at some point I tell them, forget it. You know, a hook comes, you know, they're snapping hooks in, which loads your next punch. And then eventually I switch the script on them. I say, you throw a punch, leave it out there. And then you work from that reference point. And I emphasize, if a technique, let's say, misses or they block it, I'm going to go, I can go for another punch, but I'm also just as much, I'm going to go for their balance, which means a lot of thumping and quick pushing. And I call them wrapping, where you wrap and you're trying to keep the guy off balance to land the next punch. Mm-hmm. So those are the things I kind of emphasize in sticky boxing, which I know sometimes I think is kind of a silly title, but that's really what's going on. You know, with quick sticking and punching very quickly with good recovery, good movement. And, you know.
Does the term boxing refer only to the hands? Or mostly to the hands, or what?
Yeah, mostly to the hands. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's not a lower body component for it, like kicking and kneeing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, okay. Besides the low kicking and things like that. And I, when I moved to North Carolina, I hooked up with a Kessie instructor, fighting method instructor. So a lot of the ground stuff and the, you know, my ground fighting kind of comes from that.
Okay.
I haven't done a lot of BJJ. I spent a few months getting choked out by a couple of military guys, but I don't know how much I learned. So that's where my path and my emphasis has kind of led what I found that I enjoy, you know, from all my experiences.
Mm-hmm. Hey, would you be able to say what people have been your greatest like Jeet Kune Do influences?
I really enjoyed meeting Ted Wong and what he does. So yeah, if I had to stick with the Jeet Kune Do influence, I think it would be Ted.
Okay.
You know, I did do modern Arnis for a few years too, so I got some of the stick and knife fighting and things there. But yeah, if I just really had to stick with a Jeet Kune Do.
Now, I didn't come across this until earlier today, but it's a Facebook page called Gcondo Life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it's not quite active, is it?
Uh not not so active.
Okay.
I get fairly regular posts from people, and I don't post that much on it either. And there's not much discussion because I just don't spend time with it.
You're a smart man.
That's what I mean. I'm in the background.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
also have a Facebook page called Bruce Lee Mentions where I just post feeds from,
yeah.
about Bruce Lee and whatever
I
on
didn't
there, and I don't even comment.
I didn't even see that one. Yeah, you just gave me an idea. Imagine a Facebook page about Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune, and all you can do is post, but you can't comment. All
Yeah.
you can do is post, right? You can't comment, just post, right? You gave me an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I don't comment, but I read a lot. I'm a collector. I've
Yeah,
saved things that you have said. I've watched you, I take notes when I watch you speak. I appreciate what you're doing for Jeet Kune Do, and again, how thoughtful you are about it, and in the martial arts community, and for doing these podcasts.
yeah.
I truly appreciate it.
Well, I knew that I was going to enjoy talking with you, and then when you showed up rocking the Bruce Lee T-shirt, right? I was like, yes, this is a great. I saw it
Yeah,
and I go, this is a guy that pays attention. You see, right? And I think, in all seriousness, Darin, I think that there's too many people in Jeet Kune Do that are too interested in letting everybody know what's on their mind
hmm,
instead of staying back and being more observant.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
So I can kind of tell when, like, way in advance. And I've said this to I said it to Tim Motter a few weeks ago. I can tell way in advance when I'm going to enjoy talking to somebody,
awesome.
because if we're not going to be discussing ideas and talking about what in your journey, how you move the art forward, or how the art was able to help you to move forward as an individual or what have you, then why the hell are we doing this?
Exactly.
I mean, right? So when like right at the beginning when you talked about, people like to say, so for example, there are people with the tagline that Jeet Kune Do is scientific street fighting.
Hmm.
But can they say what the science is that they're applying in this
Hmm.
street fighting? I mean, because it seems to. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and he was saying, well, I mean, it seems that if somebody fights with a Jeet Kune Do guy, that person is going to end up dead or crippled or maimed or whatever. And I'm thinking, really? I mean, have you not heard in self-defense the concept of reasonable response? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
what is this thing that Jeet Kune Do is so deadly that you automatically blind people with your finger jab, right?
Mhm.
Because you're kicking to the low line, you're going to cripple them because their knees are going to be taken over. I'm just thinking, you never heard of the concept of injure to a degree? I mean, a
Yeah.
guy, you're walking opposite to a guy and his shoulder bumps yours because the sidewalk is small, and that guy ends up dead. I don't. If that's your concept of Jeet Kune Do, I think you need to read a little bit more
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
develop
Definitely.
a little bit more of an understanding. Um, so okay, so let's. I like to ask people if there's anybody that they would like to see come on the dialogues or come back onto the dialogues, because like I've said before, I expect to be doing this forever, because
Awesome.
see, like you will have to come back when you find the software programmer, right? So you'll have to update it, right? You'll have to update us on that. You'll have to update us, when you finally get those Jeet Kune books out, right? Or when they're closed. Oh, I wanted to ask you about that. So is Kiazen a misprint? Is it Kaizen?
Yeah.
So it's Kaizen, not Kiazen. That's a misprint.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So is your publishing company still active?
Well, yeah. Again, it's just me,
right?
And I changed the name. It's called Enthusiastic Works now Publishing.
Okay.
But
what if they're aspiring JKD writers out there? Should they get in touch with you?
That'd be I would enjoy that.
What have you?
Yeah, I would enjoy that.
I mean, because you've done it. You've got 5 or 6 books to your credit already. So I think that's that could be an area in which you could expand what you're doing and expand your contribution to the art and what have you. Because I mean, from what I see on Facebook, there's a lot of people that got a lot of stuff to say about Jeet Kune, right? Not always, the most intelligent stuff, but who am I to judge, right? But is there anybody? Can you think of anybody that you'd like to see me talk to on the dialogues?
Well, Bill Matucci hasn't been on yet, has he?
Yeah. Bill came on a while ago, but I don't think he comes down to Miami.
I think I did see that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bill's been on. I was actually looking. I mean, you're number 185.
Yeah,
right?
wow.
So, I mean, it's a fair amount of talking that we've done. But I know there's still a lot of people out there that I haven't been able to get to yet. I was watching. Go ahead.
Kelly Warren been on?
Not yet, no, but he's definitely on the list. Actually, I forget who it was, but somebody mentioned him a while ago. So I'm, I look, this is one of my favorite things to do. Sit and exchange ideas about Bruce Lee and his art and the impact that it's made on people's lives. Because, I told people my Chuck Norris story a couple of days ago, and the most memorable thing that Chuck Norris said to me was, keep in mind that martial art is about helping people. So if I can get here and talk to you, that's going to help people, right, in some shape or form, right? If I keep and if I keep this program going, everybody ends up being helped in some way or the other. So
exactly,
and I didn't even have an idea to do this. This just kind of happened, Yeah, I never sat down and planned it out and go, this. It just kind of happened, and I thought, man, let's keep this going, right? Yeah. So I'll tell Bill that you said I should bring him back on.
Yeah, right? Definitely. He's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Bill is a unique character, right? Mm-hmm. Did you see Joaquin Marcelo's dialogue?
No, I'm trying to get caught up. I haven't seen all of them yet.
Yeah, that was a good one, right? I mean, they're all good, but I really enjoy, and that had some challenges associated with it, but I think he and I pulled it off really well, right? Okay, so Darin Waugh, any famous last words for the Jeet Kune world?
Man, I would just say, let's all get along.
I hear you.
And if you and please get in touch with me if you have any questions or anything I can help with. And let's all keep thanking Dwight too, because again, I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, it's my pleasure, man, and I thank everybody for the words of support and what have you, because it's got to be done. It's got to be done. All right, my son. Thank you very much for spending some time with me. You go have yourself a great weekend, right?
You too.
Okay, and stay in touch. Right, and when you got that stuff working, come back and we'll discuss it one more time.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right,
you.
man. Okay, take care.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, that was episode 185 of the Gcondo Dialogues. So you guys know the deal. Share, like, talk about it, promote the program as much as you can. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. Next Friday, July 16th, this is going to be a special one. It's actually really, really special for me. We're going to be on with John Graydon, who is the head of Martial Arts Teacher Association. Now, some of you might not know who John Graydon is, and you might not know, you won't consider him a Jeet Kune person, and he's not 100% Jeet Kune person, but in the world of martial art, John Graydon's got has always had a lot of important stuff to say, and we recently got in touch with each other, and so he's going to be on next week, and we're both in Florida, so it should be at the regular 6 p.m. time. So maybe you can tune in for that. Maybe you can also tune in next Wednesday for the next issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. In any case, until then, have a great weekend, right? You guys take care. Hope everything's back to normal in your neck of the woods, if not close to normal, right? This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. Talk soon.